Hello and welcome to the IFSP Coordinated Regional Council meeting. This meeting is virtual and hosted by the IFSP Central Virginia Regional Council. On behalf of the IFSP council members and the staff of DBHDS, we appreciate your attendance, time, and attention. The post-meeting content will be available on the My Life, My Community website for later reference. Heather, would you please post the link in the chat? This is a public meeting. While sharing communications, please do not share personal, private, or protected information. If you have questions specifically about IFSP funding, please visit the My Life, My Community website. Heather, would you also please provide the link to the funding page? Educational topic for tonight is developmental disabilities and the sibling journey, growing together through life's transitions. We have two presenters, Brianna TenBrink from Texas and Kaitlin McNamara from Wisconsin. This meeting is aimed to help families navigate Virginia's community services system and to access the necessary resources and guidance for siblings, supporting their siblings with a developmental disability. This session will cover the importance of planning and obtaining supports, understanding service coordination, and identify ways to ensure the preferences of the siblings who is being supported is always captured and prioritized. This session emphasizes the inclusive family approach, collaboration for decision-making, and understanding the evolving role of siblings from childhood to adulthood and into old age. This evening, we have three family members with lived experience. This panel has volunteered their time to graciously share their experiences and answer some of your important questions. Our panelists this evening are Emil Croyle-Sheire, Aaron Croyle, Monica Mann, and Peter Olson. The Hamilton Relay link. Brenda Perrin is the captioner from Virginia Hamilton Relay. Heather, would you please provide link in chat for those who may need this resource during the meeting? If you need technical assistance or have questions unrelated to this meeting agenda, please email ifspcommunity@dbhds.virginia.gov. Heather, would you also please share that contact information? I will now turn it over to Sean Kirk, who will be the host for this evening.
Hello, my name is Sean Kirk, and I am a council member for the IFSP Central Region and a former member of the IFSP State Council. I am a native of Richmond, Virginia, and graduated from Olson High School. And I'm very passionate about advocating for disability rights, not just in Virginia, but at the federal level. In my role as an advocate, my motto is people with disabilities have many different talents and abilities. Give us a chance and we'll show you all that we can do. I am currently employed still by the ARC of Virginia as the lead tech mentor. I am also a member of the Ally Alliance. My family is very important to me and I love my niece and nephew. Attendees are encouraged to focus on the main presenters and ask questions within the context of this meeting. Let's go over some ground rules. Please be respectful of our main presenters, panelists, and all attendees. Your microphone is muted. Cameras are optional during the meeting. However, when you speak, we ask that you turn on your camera to the audience. Please use the chat feature for all communications and questions. The IFSP staff will collect your questions and prioritize those questions for response later in the agenda. If you are unable to type your question in chat, please use the raise hand feature at the top of the screen, and we will circle back to capture your question. Please be advised, this is a public meeting. There is no option for private chat messages during this meeting. All comments entered in chat can be seen by all attendees. While sharing communications, please do not share personal, private, or protected information. Questions unrelated to this meeting should be emailed to Rhonda. Please provide the email in the chat. Audience, please refrain from placing resources in chat during the main presentation. This can be a distraction for other attendees trying to gain information from our expert presenters. Please note that DBHDS, as the operating agency for Virginia's DD programs, does not endorse any private agency to respond to questions that may contradict the advice of our expert presenters, panel, or internal staff. If you have a question, please place it in the chat, and our guest presenters or panelist members will respond during the meeting if time allows. If the question cannot be answered during the meeting, it will be included in the post-meeting content archived on the My Life, My Community website. Attendees, please take a break as needed. Lastly, please be advised that IFSP can remove anyone from this meeting who is deemed disruptive to other attendees. We'd like to acknowledge the following DBHDS staff in attendance: Heather Hines, IFSP Program Manager; Rhonda Gaines, IFSP Community Coordination Supervisor; Rachel Vametta, IFSP Communications and Program Coordinator; Lynn Fetter, IFSP Support Specialist; and Deanna Parker, Director, Community Network Supports. For the next segment, I will turn the meeting over to Heather Hines.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Sean, and welcome. I'm Heather Hines, the Program Manager for the Individual and Family Support Program, and we welcome you here tonight for this very special topic. It's very special to me. I have one brother, and he has developmental disabilities, and so I am a sibling, and this topic I'm interested to learn along with you tonight. So thank you all for being here, and thank you to all our panelists, our council members, and our expert speakers. So just want to tell you a little bit about the Individual and Family Support Program before we jump into our main presentation. So the IFSP is also known as the Individual and Family Support Program. Helps people with developmental disabilities and their families. We are part of the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. You may hear that referred to as DBHDS. And our main purpose is to help people who are on the DD waiver waitlist. Some of our programs and resources are also available to people who need help, but aren't on the waiting list yet, so maybe new to the system. And also to people who have a DD waiver. So really it's anyone who is coming in contact with DD services in the state of Virginia. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about what we do, and we encourage you to share this information with others in your community. That's really what we're all about, is getting information out to people who need it. So the IFSP Community Coordination Program involves regional and state councils made up of people with developmental disabilities, family members, caregivers, and some professionals. Council members help to organize coordinated council events like the one you're attending tonight to provide information to people on different topics throughout the year. They build local support networks, they act as liaisons with the IFSP, and they share helpful information in their communities. We are so grateful for what they do to help others across Virginia. The IFSP funding program is another big part of what we do, and that happens once a year when people on the DD waivers wait list can apply for financial assistance for items and services so that they can continue to live in their homes in the community. Additionally, we offer direct support through our partnerships with organizations like Virginia Commonwealth University, Partnership for People with Disabilities, Center for Family Involvement, and the ARC of Virginia. These collaborations provide family and peer mentoring opportunities, as well as leadership for empowerment and abuse prevention training. And I don't want to forget to mention tech mentoring, which is what Sean Kirk was just talking about. He is their lead tech mentor. We're very, very proud of him for that new role. Our My Life, My Community website is also developed with Virginia Navigator. That's another partnership that we have. And that website serves as a resource hub, and it's accessible to everyone. And through that website, we offer information on services, supports, and resources. You can also call the toll-free number for help with navigating the website, or if you have any other questions. Our marketing and messaging efforts ensure that important information gets out to individuals with disabilities, families, and the wider community. Our IFSP First Steps Guide, I did put a link in the chat so you can access that guide. That's available on the My Life, My Community website as well. And it goes out in our annual mailer to everyone on the wait list. And that just is an overview of the DD system to help people navigate services and find resources. And last but not least, we work hard to distribute a monthly digest featuring resource highlights, training opportunities, and upcoming events that we hope will be helpful to people with DD and their families.
And they kept happening constantly.
And
somebody
okay. And if you'd like to stay informed and receive that digest monthly, you can sign up for our email list. And that link is also will be in the chat if it's not already. Or check out the My Life, My Community website. So we have also Facebook pages for all of our regions. All of our regional councils have a Facebook account and page, and we have one for the main IFSP Facebook. So we'll put those in the chat, and that's just a little bit about what we do. And from there I will turn the meeting back over to Sean to introduce our presenters. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Heather. Brianna TenBrink, or Bree, has an MBA in Leadership and Advocacy Program Manager for the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities. Brianna TenBrink has over a decade of experience working with and directly supporting individuals with disabilities. She began her disability advocacy journey at 10 years old when her two younger sisters were diagnosed as autistic. Her career in disability services began at her local ARC chapter, and she is now the Leadership and Advocacy Program Manager at the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities. As a graduate and now a leader of the Texas Partners in Policymaking Program, she trains and supports self-advocates and family members to become effective, collaborative advocates for systems and policy change. When not working, you can find Brianna hanging out with friends and family and spending time with her dogs, Sasha Fierce and Mochi.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Sean. Good afternoon. Pardon, it's afternoon over here in Texas. Good evening, my Virginia friends, and thank you so much for having me. I'm getting my screen shared here. Are we able to see the slides? Yes. Fantastic. Thank you for that thumbs up. Well, I'll go ahead and get us started because I know time is of the essence. But thank y'all so much again for having me. And as you can tell by the theme of my presentation, it is Eras Tour themed by Miss Taylor Swift. And most people know the Eras Tour as a celebration of different chapters in life. Each era represents growth, change, and a different version of who she was at the time. When I look back at my own life, I realize I've experienced eras too. Growing up with two autistic siblings meant our family was constantly evolving, and each era shaped how I see the world. And tonight, I'm going to take you through a few of the eras that shaped my experience as a sibling, from diagnosis to current day. And we'll share the future of the TenBrink sisters as we begin to navigate adulthood all together. So, I welcome you to the TenBrink Sisters Eras Tour, Brianna's version. I have to tell you, I was the most excited big sister a hospital ever did see. I was raised by two eldest siblings who taught me that the bond, loyalty, and lifelong support between siblings are invaluable. As big sister, it was my duty, I was the primary influencer in shaping how our sibling dynamic would develop. They encouraged me to be a loving, safe space. So I walked into the hospital on May 20th, 2005, to meet my middle sister, Maya, wearing a white t-shirt I got from Michael's with Big Sister Brianna in iron-on gold letters. And from that point on, I've always had a ride or die bond with my sister, Maya. At the age of 3, she even confronted my elementary school bully. She's a true real one, and you'll get a chance to hear from her a little bit later in this presentation. My youngest sister, Leah, joined the crew about 14 months later, and you couldn't convince me that we weren't going to be the next Destiny's Child. I was about to go from Brianna to Beyonce. I loved my sisters, and I knew they loved me, and we were always a very close group. So it was easy for me, along with my parents, to notice when Leah began regressing in her communication skills at around 16 months. By the time Leah was 18 months, she received her autism diagnosis. And I'll never forget that day and the months of therapy sessions to follow. Those months brought on additional diagnoses and realizations, including intellectual disability, speech impairment, and that Leah will need to use an iPad to communicate. And I remember hearing so many things about what Leah wouldn't be able to do, such as, she will never tell you, I love you. I watched that statement break my mom's heart. I saw the impact it had on my dad when my mom shared what the diagnosticians told her. And I was the one who assured Maya everything was going to be okay, when my parents just needed some quiet time to process. I listened to my mom's takeaways from all the research she had done to learn more, and I took my dad's words to heart that my sister's having a disability changes nothing about what he and my mom told me about being a big sister. He reminded me that my sisters will need me to be someone they can look up to and know has their back more than ever now. So I puffed out my chest, I threw on my autism awareness t-shirt, and I became the glue that my family needed at 10 years old. And I can tell you, wasn't a pretty process, but it taught me a lot. And from it, multiple new eras of Brianna emerged. And before I go on with the story, I want to pause for a moment and map out the eras of my life that we're about to explore together. I just put a pin in our story right at the beginning of the diagnosis adjustment era, the era where everything started to change. My family was learning what autism meant, adjusting to new realities, and figuring out what life was going to look like moving forward. I felt a shift in our sibling dynamic when I was about 13 years old, and I call this era the advocate activated era. This is the era in which I started to understand my siblings' diagnosis and needs more deeply and began finding the power in my voice as a sibling. And now we are currently a few years into our all grown-up era. We're all out of the school system and forging our own paths as adults. And this era has been all about reflection, appreciation, and recognizing how far we've come as a sibling unit as we dream up the future together. So with these eras in mind, let's go back to the start of the first one, the diagnosis adjustment era. Leah began receiving early childhood intervention, or ECI services, and therapy-based support very early on. Maya and I often had no choice but to accompany our mom and Leah to each of these sessions. We did look forward to participating in sensory play with Leah in the shaving cream and the rice, but the hours were long and the snacks were few. As Leah was wrapping up her 1.5 years of ECI services, Maya was also diagnosed with autism. And literally, y'all, it felt like that record scratch moment in a movie. And I was experiencing so many different emotions as a sibling. One being confusion. I felt like I was just starting to understand autism in the context of Leah. And now I have to get my 4th grade brain to try to understand the concept of autism as a spectrum. And I remember being perplexed because Maya and Leah had very different support needs. And a few questions came to mind from that. How could they both be autistic? What does this mean for my family? And my most nagging thought, as the oldest, how did the autism skip me? And I really had this thought that somehow this was my fault. And it made me feel a lot of guilt. And at the beginning, I didn't really share these feelings with my parents. I kept them all inside, put on my brave face. But soon they manifested into physical symptoms. I started having serious headaches where I had to stay home from school. stomach aches, a complete loss of appetite. There was a point in time where I barely ate for 3 weeks. And it felt like there was just a pit in my stomach that would never go away. And I think another part of that feeling, on top of the guilt, was I was just feeling really overwhelmed, not only as a sibling, but also as my parents' daughter. I could feel the overwhelm that my parents were feeling and hearing their questions. What can we do? What should we do? How are we going to afford this? And what does our future look like? Which led us all to launch into another phase that was prevalent here in this era: endless research. One of the only things that helped me cope early on was to continue to learn more about autism. I read young adult novels featuring autistic characters, academic studies. I participated in sibling trainings to keep learning, and I twisted any school paper I could into something about autism. Now, some teachers loved it and some didn't. But towards the end of this era, when my siblings started school, more differences came to light for me to learn about. For example, Leah was in a self-contained classroom and learning how to use an augmentative and alternative communication device, or an AAC device, while Maya was in a general education classroom receiving accommodations. I began to understand what advocacy looked like in the education system and started contributing my own thoughts to their individualized education plan, or IEP, while my mom also encouraged both of my siblings to participate in their meetings. Maya and Leah continued through their schooling during the advocate-activated era, with ups and many downs. The gaps in support were evident and became especially clear during transition planning. While Maya was encouraged to explore employment and post-secondary options, Leah received an unrealistic plan without accessible support, so our mom had to step in to fill in the gaps. Maya started to endure bullying from classmates and had to persevere through rumors made about her because she was perceived as different. To help her build confidence and social skills, following in my footsteps, Maya began taking theater and other fine arts classes, which led to her also participating in choir and musical theater, where she really blossomed as a person when she got to connect with these new groups in school. On the other hand, Leah faced restraint and seclusion from educators and specialists. The district attempted to cover it up, providing manipulated classroom footage, dismissing the teachers from duty before proper complaints could be filed, and delaying notification, downplaying the situation at hand. Which led me to participating in Texas Partners in Policymaking, where I learned how to change policy to ensure this doesn't happen to another student in Texas. My mom and I participated in state level and national campaigns, as well as a press conference at the Texas Capitol, advocating to put an end to harmful student restraint. I became my mom's right-hand gal during the diagnosis adjustment era and her partner in crime during the advocate-activated era. You could find us at your local autism walk, at a SIB shop, volunteering at a disability fundraiser, or even hosting district-wide All Abilities conferences. My siblings and I attended the same school district, all at different campuses, for the majority of our education. This made for the perfect attack and conquer model to get each of our schools to commit to raising awareness about autism during April, Autism Acceptance Month. Facts about autism were shared with the daily announcements. Special events like flash mobs were held to raise awareness, and district-wide autism awareness shirts were created. This era for our family was all about action. If you weren't talking about accessibility or inclusivity, we didn't want to talk. I even took on my first job ever at the Arc of the Gulf Coast when I was 15 years old. This era, in a great contrast to the previous, I felt so much enthusiasm. I would tell anyone who would give me the time of day about my sisters, and I still do, what autism is and how they can be an ally to individuals like my siblings. I never lost my love for a good themed t-shirt. Similar to my big sister Brianna shirt, I wore autism awareness shirts to school, which attracted some negative attention from certain classmates. I never cared. I was hearing worse, honestly, in the community from adults who would provide their drive-by commentary while seeing Maya having an overstimulated moment in the grocery store, or who, other adults who would directly confront or question our use of accessible dressing rooms or bathrooms when out shopping together, which brought on this new energy with Brianna, this is where the era where I really developed my sister bear level of protection that I had for my family. Even within our family network, my sisters and parents weren't safe from judgment and ridicule. I learned very quickly that if I didn't stand up for our family, who would? We don't deserve side eyes, unsolicited advice, or isolation. I've been my family's protector since I realized how harsh and unkind the world is to individuals with disabilities. And two key moments arose for me from this era. First was realizing that both of my siblings in the spectrum of the systems that be fall into the gray area of support. Maya was often over and under supported, while Leah was often over and underestimated. To this day, we still continue to struggle to find programs and groups that meet their support needs and feel like a good fit for them. Second was my mom showing me that disability advocacy could be a career. My mom took all the information she learned and applied it to becoming a special education advocate and began working at our local ARC chapter. I wouldn't have the job I have today or be speaking to you today if it weren't for her. And she's here tonight. So thank you, Mommy, for being the blueprint. We have been navigating the all grown up era of our lives for the last 5 years. And if I'm being completely honest, the last 5 years of our sibling experience have easily been the hardest of all the eras. We made difficult decisions and had to overcome many unforeseen challenges. First being the guardianship decision. As the girls approached 18, we began discussing as a family which type of guardianship or alternative would best suit Maya and Leah and the steps to obtain these distinctions. After many months of discussion, we decided that a supported decision-making agreement would be best for Maya and that full guardianship would be best for Leah. And this decision was not made lightly, nor was it without all the necessary knowledge to make a well-informed decision. Another unforeseen challenge and barrier we encountered was healthcare access and seeing the difference in my siblings' level of access. Maya has faced no limitations in receiving general healthcare. Her hardships actually arose when she had to take a psychological evaluation to determine her college level supports. And after enduring a 4-hour-long evaluation with no prep or breaks, she was told that because she has friends, she doesn't need to be autistic anymore. I'll let that hang in the air for all the deserved eye rolls and head shakes. Leah, on the other hand, has struggled greatly with receiving disability-informed care her whole life, but especially as she inched closer to adulthood. We have heard from offices, we don't treat autistic people like her here. And even though she is duly insured, at the height of a behavioral crisis, Leah did not meet the criteria for any medical settings in Texas to receive care or support. And we've also, in this era, had to navigate futures planning. We have had series of conversations about futures planning for both Maya and Leah for years on end. And what I want to highlight quickly here is that Maya and Leah have the same diagnosis, but a completely different plan for the future. Housing, transportation, employment will look different for each of my siblings. As a sibling, I've always felt the weight of the future. I knew from a young age that I had to succeed so I can take care of all three of us if needed. As adulthood crept closer, I began to feel the real gravity of the situation. When my parents are gone, I will be Leah's guardian, managing her finances, living situation, medications, and overall quality of life. Every day I'm brainstorming business ideas with my mom that Leah, Maya, and I could all work at together. I feel nervous about the future, but prepared for when that era eventually comes because I was a part of the planning. I learned a lot from my experience as Maya and Leah's sibling, and I'd like to offer some thoughts for the parents in the room on the lessons I learned from my experience and how to make sure siblings have the space and support to refill their own cups. So let's dig into what worked for me versus what didn't work for me. I think, and prepping for this presentation was such a privilege because it allowed me to reflect so deeply on my life. And I think what made the biggest difference was I got involved early. I started learning and listening alongside my mother very young. I got active. I learned what advocacy was. I learned what my sisters needed. And I got out there and I got active. And that actually, that difference between the diagnosis adjustment era to the advocate activated era was that level of enthusiasm that came with taking action. And that's really been, my life source. As you can see, I have a career in it. I went to school for business and disability pulled me right back. It's getting involved early. I cannot stress what a difference maker that was. And I'm very grateful that my parents brought me along for the ride. So I was able to learn alongside them. Secondly, my parents are so approachable that they gave me an environment where I could just be honest about my feelings. And so getting to go to them and share with them everything I was feeling about being a sibling really made my home a safe space. And my parents were my judgment-free zone that I could go to. And with being honest about my feelings, what also worked for me was humanizing my parents. And I think in this experience, I realized really young, like, wow, me and my parents are both living life for the first time, and we are trying our best. And we just got handed this new challenge to figure out. And we're all navigating this as a team. And so we became this really nice gelled unit very early on. And I think it was incredibly healthy for me to realize that my parents weren't going to have all the answers and that together we're going to go ahead and find those out for ourselves. Another thing that helped me was normalizing my sibling dynamic. We are just like any other set of siblings. And conveniently, we all wear the same size shoe. So we're stealing each other's shoes. We're taking each other's clothes. We're eating each other's candy without permission. All these things. And also all the way that our personalities have formed and have built off of each other. You can see it. And so I knew that my home life was different from other people, but I know what it's like to be a sibling. And that's definitely not different. And lastly, what also worked for me is encouraging others to join me. I mentioned a little bit earlier, I will talk to anybody who will listen to me about disability advocacy and access. And that has always been something I've done. And it's made all the difference. It's turned my friends into advocates. They have come along to SIB Shops trainings with me. They have joined buddy programs on school campuses with me. They volunteered at Night to Shine. And so, feeling like I had community and that my village was willing to go with me in this journey really made me feel better. Now, what didn't work for me, and I'm going to address these first two really quick, and you'll see I have some stars here. Sibling workshops and trainings and sibling support groups. First note, just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. And when I was a sibling, SIB shops were just coming out on the scene. So they were not anywhere near their final form or orientation that they were today. But I wanted to include this here because even though something might work for you, and it's like a sibling support group, like I should be here in my community with other siblings. If it's not a good fit, you don't have to stay. And so find where you are going to get that support that you need, where you're going to be able to grow. And like I mentioned on what did work for me, find a way for you to take action. It really does make all the difference, whether it's in community with other siblings or other groups within the disability community. Find your place and get to work. A few other things that didn't work for me: overly sympathetic supporters, which unfortunately were often those teachers that were reading my papers about autism. I really could never stand the, I'm sorry's, the apologetic energies, telling me that I'm some sort of superhero for being there for my siblings. And I've never looked at my life that way. I shared with y'all what my parents told me when, I found out I was going to be a big sister. And I just always thought, We are a little team. We're Destiny's Child. We're a little group. We're going to go everywhere together and figure this out, no matter what it looks like. And so I'm not some superhero. I'm just another big sister, and you can meet us anywhere. And the last two things are unbalanced chores and tasks. I don't even need to go into this one too much, but I definitely felt that imbalance in our home as we started to enter our teenage years, where I was like, oh, I want Maya and Leah to help me with some stuff too. I don't want to wash the dishes all the time or always clean all the bathrooms. And so that was probably one of the biggest talks that I used to always have with my parents, where I wish I had a little bit more flexibility. And so definitely parents, make sure that you're talking with your children, finding ways for them to get involved and, contribute to the household as well. And then lastly, extended family suggestions. And, I mentioned earlier, I had to acquire the sister bear level of like protection over my family. Just because, people like to offer those drive-by comments, try to tell you what you're doing wrong. And parents, I want you to know that your children are listening. We hear that too. And oh my gosh, it irritates me to no end. And so, make sure that you are setting those boundaries and making space for what is best for your family always. And then lastly, another lesson I learned, just in the way that I went about this experience and how I showed up in my siblings' lives, I often got labeled within my own community, the sibling community, as the super sibling. And I like to describe that as that friend that your grandparents say you should be more like. And that made my experience all the more challenging because I didn't feel like I got to really connect with a lot of the other siblings that were in my area. And so remember, nobody's super. There's no right or wrong way to go about supporting, but it is greatly important to take action in some way, shape, or form and to always be a part of the planning. Planning gives so much peace of mind for the future. And then I just wanted to share a few pieces of advice from my life on how I figured out how to refill my cup as a sibling. And number one was strengthening my family bonds. We really built these safe and vulnerable relationships within my home. And I want to note that my parents showed up for me always. My parents didn't miss a choir concert. They didn't miss a musical theater performance. They didn't miss a volleyball game, a talent show. They figured out how to be there for me because they knew how important the things that I had going on in my life were to me. And so we had this really great, and we still do, this really great dynamic within our family. And so I encourage y'all to cultivate that, build those types of connections. They are a life source. I feel like I can breathe easier because of the kind of relationship I have with my parents. Secondly, is to lean on your village. Share your feelings and experiences with your trusted friends. Like I shared in my earliest era, I felt like I had to hold everything so close to my chest that I just needed to be strong. And, one day I'd feel better. And I have to tell you, it wasn't until I started seeking out other coping methods and other ways of other methods of support that I actually started feeling better. So when I started talking to my bestie about my experiences, that's when she raised her hand and said, I'll go to a sibling training with you so you don't have to go alone. So definitely lean on your village. My last few are get creative. I was songwriting, dancing, singing, and really trying to process my emotions as a sibling through those methods. And it really gave me a lot of release and tension. And so I encourage you to find your artistic or expressive format that you enjoy and, express those feelings. And then my last two are find support. I'm a big advocate for therapy, and I've been talking about my sibling experience in therapy for many years. And so I encourage y'all to explore it. Or somatic exercise, singing and dancing are somatic exercises. And there's a lot of other methods, but they're really amazing for processing those difficult emotions. And then lastly, as I've said over and over, take action, raise awareness, build capacity, create systems or policy change. Get out there, get active. I promise you'll feel better. Now, don't take my word for it. Here is a word from my sister Maya, explaining her experience as a sibling, as a person with a disability, supporting another sibling with a disability.
Hi, I'm Brianna's sister Maya, and I wanted to get to a few points of my own on being a sibling to someone with the same disability as me, but with much different support needs. Growing up, our parents always taught me that Leah and I did have the same disability with some traits in common. However, our supports were going to be very different. Growing up with this baseline knowledge of our disabilities helped me better understand that autism is a spectrum and understand my own diagnosis living with and experiencing someone outside of myself with the same disability. Leah and I were raised very closely, being only 14 months apart, so I often got to sit in and see the support she was receiving, and this also helped me better understand the differences in the way our disabilities manifested. Nothing was taboo in our home as far as discussing our needs or our diagnoses. I was able to come to our parents with any struggles or questions regarding Leah, and they spoke very openly and put no limits on the topics we discussed. Growing up with a sibling with the same disability but different support needs strengthened my understanding of autism and the way it affects me and my sister individually. Our parents were and are very hands-on with Leah, as she requires more attention having higher support needs. As her sibling, I often felt like I couldn't come to my parents with my problems as they consistently had their hands full caring for Leah, and I often relied on my older sister Brianna for support while my parents managed Leah's busy schedule. Though I was their child with lower support needs, my parents never compared us or pitted us against each other. We're just like any other pair of sisters. We wear each other's clothes, we disagree, and we eat each other's candy with or without permission. For parents, please try your best to educate your children on their disability or their siblings' disabilities. When raised alongside each other, siblings must learn to understand each other to cultivate a healthy relationship, as well as cultivate a healthy relationship with themselves when learning about their own disability. This is especially important if one or more of your children may rely on the support of others throughout their life. Not disclosing certain information regarding disability can only create a rift and resentment between siblings. If not for our mother's exemplary approach regarding our autism diagnoses, my sister and I would not be nearly as close as we are today, nor would I know how to treat her with the respect that she deserves. Leaving an open dialogue with your children surrounding disability, accepting even the frustrations and difficult questions can make all the difference. As the parent, you define your family's culture. Please leave room for empathetic, vulnerable, and low-pressure conversations. And that is everything. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and back to Brianna's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. At the end of the day, we're just three sisters trying to live our best lives together. To 2026 and beyond, I'm continuing my work as a professional advocate and introducing a romantic partner to the TenBrink Sisterhood mix. Maya is working towards her Bachelor of Arts in Communication, practicing job skills, and getting her driver's license. Leah is enjoying homeschool and exploring the community with her family and experimenting with employment pathways. Life naturally moves through eras. Some are confusing, some are challenging, and some help us understand everything that came before. And if my life has taught me anything, it's that every era, no matter how difficult, has the power to shape us into stronger, more compassionate people. I've given this presentation in multiple formats and with different focuses over the years, and one consistent theme. If you remember nothing else I shared today, know there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Create your own. As Maya shared, parents, you create the culture in your family. Facilitate a dynamic where your children feel like they can approach you, talk honestly about difficult things, and feel like a member of a team. I created a resource that will be shared after this presentation to help support these conversations at home. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the TenBrink Sister Eras Tour, Brianna's version. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or connection requests.
Thank you, Brianna. Sarah, please drop Brianna's resources in the chat. Rhonda, do we have a couple questions for Brianna?
Yes, I thank you, Sean. I think we have time for at least one question. So, Brianna, fabulous presentation. Thank you so much. So the first question would be, did you ever feel you had to explain, defend, or advocate for your sibling in public spaces? And how did that impact you?
Oh, absolutely. I kind of mentioned this a bit earlier, that sister bear level of protection that I developed. I had to defend my sisters often, and, to the point where the grocery store even kind of felt like an uneasy experience that I didn't want to go to, because I knew that there was going to be somebody, passing by like, oh, that mom doesn't know how to parent their kids, or, oh, that's what spankings are for. And, I had to watch my mom endure that kind of commentary and, kind of just take it on the chin, which I think is absolutely inappropriate. And so at a very young age, I kind of had to build this confidence and this kind of front to where don't even think about saying something to our family, was kind of this aura that I had to start to project. And so I would say the impact that it's had on me is that I carry it to this day. Even when I'm out with Maya and Leah now, I'm looking around, I'm monitoring, who's watching us, what's going on. And so, yeah, it's definitely kept my head on a swivel over the years, but it's worth it to ensure that my siblings get the respect that they deserve.
Yes, thank you very much. Please stay with us so that we can hopefully get some questions from our audience for you to answer, and enjoy the next presenter. I'll hand it back over to Sean.
Thank you, Rhonda. Kaitlin McNamara, JD, is the executive director for the Sibling Leadership Network. Kaitlin joined the Sibling Leadership Network as the executive director in March of 2023. As a sibling, she knows the important role siblings can do.
Sean, are you having problems with your audio?
No, I shouldn't be. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Sean, I can hear you.
All right. As a sibling, she knows the important role siblings can play in the lives of their siblings with disabilities, as
I think
well
he's
as
having some trouble with, we can't hear you, Sean.
Rachel said she could hear me.
Would you like me to introduce Kaitlin?
No,
Rhonda, we can hear him, Rhonda.
We can hear him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm trying to figure out where I left off. Okay. After getting her undergraduate degree in political communications from George Washington University, she moved to northern Wisconsin to be close to her three younger sisters. In 2019, she joined the staff at the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities and the Wisconsin DD Council, where her work focused on enhancing quality services, educating about human rights, and improving the systems of reporting abuse and neglect of people with disabilities. In 2022, she graduated from the University of Wisconsin Law School, where she concentrated on disability justice and changing systems through administrative law. She is passionate about creating inclusive and safe communities for people with disabilities and equipping siblings with the resources and skills they need to advocate alongside their siblings on the issues that matter to them.
Thank you so much, Sean, for that introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I just want to say, while I'm doing that I'm so grateful for this opportunity and for the chance to follow Brianna's presentation as well. It is always so inspiring to me and special to get to hear from other siblings about their own journey. As the executive director of the Sibling Leadership Network, I have an absolutely wonderful opportunity to work with and talk to siblings all over the country about their experience through childhood and into their adult years, through the lifespan of their relationship with their sibling. And this presentation, I will talk a little bit about my own experience as a sibling, but I'm also going to zoom out a little bit and share with you what adult siblings want us to know. And this is based on, in particular, some of our stats around their experience comes from over 100 siblings who have recently filled out a survey for us about what they have experienced and what they want others to know about their experience. But I'll start with just a little bit about who I am. I am the oldest of 4 sisters. Hopefully you're able to see that picture of us in the corner. 2 of my younger sisters identify as women with disabilities. My sister Kelsey is an autistic woman with a co-occurring mental health diagnosis and a developmental disability. She is, more importantly to her, an artist. And when I ask her how she wants to be introduced in some of these things, she says, just call me Kelsey. And so that's just Kelsey. And she is my next youngest sister. So we're about 15 months apart. My sister Anne Marie is the next sister, and she experienced a traumatic brain injury as a result of a sports injury in high school and has navigated an acquired disability since then. She is now a nurse in a children's hospital in Minnesota and married to her husband now for just about 6 months, and they live with their dog and 2 cats. My youngest sister, Audrey, is the baby of the family, though I don't think she likes to be described that way anymore. She's about to turn 23, and she lives with me in Wisconsin as she navigates the end of her education journey and the beginning of her career. So as you can tell, with those wonderful, powerful sisters behind me, we grew up navigating advocacy, learning about systems, and developing our own lifelong sibling roles. The experience of growing up alongside those fierce and powerful women have shaped not only how I see my own life, but how I see disability, leadership, and my role in my family. My education path and professional pathway that Sean mentioned in my introduction stems, of course, from my own experience, but more important to me now is my opportunity to share about the sibling experience and find ways to support siblings across the country to have those resources and support that they need to live the lives that they want alongside their families. So I'm going to talk about some big questions tonight because this is what is always on the minds of siblings, the big questions. We go through many stages as we enter adulthood that define those big questions in eras, not unlike the way Brianna described them earlier. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about those different stages of life as I know them and also as they've been shared with me. This is, like I said, a story not just of mine, but of so many siblings. And overwhelmingly, siblings say that this role of sib profoundly shapes their identity and their well-being. And so many of them also feel pressure, sometimes a positive one, sometimes not, to make life choices around their sibling. We'll talk about how the internal monologue of sibs changes over time. But it's important to remember that there's not just one transition in a life, there are many. And transitions aren't just about one person, they can be about the whole family system. And the more that we open the conversation up to recognizing when those transitions are occurring in our lives and how we can all communicate together through those transitions, the more successful those transitions can feel for everyone. So what happens at 18 plus? Brianna mentioned a little bit of this in her own presentation about her experience, but this is really where we start to have conversations about guardianship and decision-making, about living arrangements, about financial planning for the future, about benefits and eligibility, and siblings are thinking about what their own life trajectory may be as they are coming up to 18 plus as well. Are they going to go to college? Are they going to move away from home? Are they staying close by for their own reasons or to be close to family? These conversations are on the minds of sibs, even if they are not open conversations that you are having with the sibs in your life. They are thinking about the long-term future of legal decision-making and who that is going to fall to. They're thinking about the kinds of homes that they may want to have, or whether or not they want to be anticipating living with their sibling for the rest of their life. They're thinking about the financial expectations and financial opportunities that will be available to them and how they will learn to navigate benefit systems or eligibility at different points. And again, this is where they're thinking about how they're going to build their own life for themselves, taking into consideration these important things that are happening in their family system. This is often when siblings move from that fierce advocate on the schoolyard, that buddy at home, from supportive sibling to future planner. And that's true whether or not the conversation is happening. 92% of siblings feel a caregiving pressure as they move from their own youth into their young adulthood. And to be clear, most of those siblings will tell you that that pressure comes from themselves. They want to be a part of their family. They don't always know exactly how they want to be a part of their family, but they do know that they want to contribute, and they don't know how that's going to look like for them. And they're cautious about sharing too much of those feelings with their family that would add to their family system's anxiety or overwhelm. And so the pressure to figure things out comes from internal to themselves, and they try to work on those things on their own if they're not given the opportunity to get support. For the young adult sibling, the internal monologue is those questions about what is their role going to be? Are they going to move home? What kind of career can they realistically see for themselves? When do you start learning the intricate details of care versus just the big picture? What happens in the future when my parents can't do this anymore? Not every sibling wants to take on a primary caregiving role in the future, and not every sibling is ready to make that choice in their early 20s and 30s. But it doesn't change the fact that we are thinking about it. 85% of siblings say they experience anxiety around the ideas about what their future will look like with their sibling, and more than half say it's difficult to ask for help. When sibs talk to us, they talk to us about the anxiety of the unknown and the limited connections that they have to people with similar experiences to them. It can sometimes feel not unlike parents feel in those early years of diagnosis and figuring out systems. For sibs, it can also feel like you're rebuilding or making the wheel all over again, not just from diagnosis to where siblings land, but also when they take over those responsibilities in the future. It always kind of feels like we're starting from scratch. As we move through our adulthood and move into what we fondly and affectionately refer to the club sandwich generation, this is where caregiving comes really to the forefront. And that's because we're balancing a lot of different roles in our lives. We may have found our career, we may have settled into our own family life, we may have bought a home and decided where we were going to build our community and our support. But the new balancing act comes from the levels of caregiving that we may be providing to members of our family. We might have our own children, our own careers. So often sibs move into careers in this point in their lives that are in service fields of care. And then we have our aging parents and our sibling with a disability. And none of those individuals have care that looks exactly the same. There is no one size fits all, as I remember Brianna saying earlier. And so we are learning how to navigate the care needs of young children, aging parents, and a support system for a sibling with a disability all at the same time. Especially as we are coming up on the life transition of care for our sibling, the internal monologue switches to I'm next, or there's no backup plan, or how do I juggle all of this at the same time? And then at some point, for many siblings, we become the primary caregiver sibling. This can happen at many different times and with many different levels of planning and support. But no matter when it happens, it is a life-changing event. There is no way to fully prepare for the moment that things will change this significantly. And so it is a time in our lives where we need a higher level of support as we navigate a new reality. This can happen when a parent becomes ill or dies, or some other crisis event makes the sibling the primary caregiver overnight. If there isn't a plan in place for siblings at this time in their life, there are so many things at stake. Housing choices, medical decisions, employment or day services, learning or navigating Medicaid and waivers, and figuring out how you're going to have long-term sustainability in your own life is all something that comes up at this time of life. It may be that you have a solid plan in place, and for those siblings, I think this can feel a little bit more manageable, but there's nothing like moving from the plan to the time when you have to put the plan to action. And all of those choices that you've made in preparation for this moment need to shift and adjust and adapt to the reality of the situation you find yourself in. And even those siblings who say that they had a plan or they knew generally what they thought was going to happen will tell you that they feel like this moment is a very hard one. They feel isolated. They struggle with being able to express their emotions, and they report that they are under chronic stress. And then there are end-of-life transitions, not just for the loss of our parents, but for the loss of our sibling or for the loss of other family members and our own end-of-life planning that all have to come into consideration since we are aging with our siblings in more cases than our parents are. And this is happening when there's, an overwhelming sense of grief, when roles are shifting and sometimes shifting quickly or often, where there is intensified responsibility, when needs are heightened, more medical appointments are happening, more care is needed, and then there's a change in the family identity. The matriarch of your family may be gone. The normal sounding board that you had may no longer be there. And the logistics can crowd out the space to have proper time to grieve or to heal. If we're talking about an end-of-life transition for a parent or a primary caregiver, the crisis moment can feel even worse if there's no plan or the sibling wasn't involved in the conversations. An overnight shift in identity can be an incredibly isolating experience as well. There are other considerations too. This is not just a question of, one sib, if you could just track them through their stages and follow what worked for them or get rid of what didn't work would mean that you had the blueprint for exactly what to do in every situation. So much of our lives and our identities are made up of many more things than just our sib identity. And so our culture and our community can shape who we are and how we interact with systems and how we talk to one another about the things that are concerning us. Some folks play a heightened role in language and interpretation in their family from a young age, which means that they learn and are exposed to medical and legal terminology very early on. Some navigate cultural expectations where the sibling is always expected to take on heightened caregiving roles for aging parents or for other family members. Some navigate cultural expectations where death is not a conversation that we can have easily or with a future plan in mind. And some carry additional emotional labor from the experiences of their community. And 37% of the siblings that we surveyed identified a societal or cultural expectation as a part of the pressure that they were experiencing. So what are we really asking for? What are adult siblings asking themselves and their community, and what are they asking for from the people who want to support them? The internal monologue, no matter where you are on the life spectrum of a sibling, typically starts with, where do I start? Who understands this? Who can I talk to? What if I don't want to be a guardian? What if I don't know that I want to take on primary caregiving responsibilities at some point? Am I allowed to feel that way? Am I allowed to not be sure? How do I prepare without taking over at this time in my life? How do I have hard conversations with my parents when this isn't something we've ever discussed out loud? What siblings really are asking for is a space to talk. Communication and practice of a plan is really something that helps siblings feel prepared for the future. What we're asking for as siblings are practical tools, peer connection, clear pathways, and validation. Some of those things we build in our own communities, and some we need from outside places, as anyone else who is experiencing this world needs. So some of that can feel pretty heavy. I don't mean for it to be a dark conversation necessarily, but I do want to be quite honest about what it is that siblings are worrying about. I always say it's easier for me to say the hard things for the first time as we start these conversations, because I don't have to go home and eat dinner with any of you after this. I am the person that can come in and let you know what's probably, spiraling around inside a sib in your life's head, and give you opportunities to start the conversation and sit with the information that can make you feel like this is a conversation worth having. The Sibling Leadership Network exists and has existed for many years to connect siblings across the lifespan. We have done a tremendous amount of sibling research and supported researchers from many institutions who are looking at the sibling experience and the role that it plays in the family system. It has also helped us build evidence-based programs that are there to support siblings no matter where they are in their lifespan or what kind of role they intend to take on. That has helped us develop and disseminate resources and education for siblings, and build a policy and advocacy team that can look at the issues that are important to siblings and to their whole family and begin to change the systems that exist to be more responsive and recognize the role that siblings can and will play in the future, and that we become good and strong allies for self-advocate-led organizations to add our voice to their calls for action from policymakers and from our elected officials to protect and to build capacity of the programs that mean that our siblings can live the quality, full lives they deserve. I like to remind folks that siblings are the longest lasting family relationship. They need resources and support to throughout the course of their life to be able to maintain and build that family relationship. And it's going to go through cycles and changes. I am certainly not the sister I was in my early 20s or even in my teen years that I am now. And I don't anticipate being the same sibling to my sisters in the future. I also know that there are changes for my sisters coming that will make them better advocates and allies for their own siblings and for others, and where their own needs and their own balancing acts of adulthood will mean that our agreement around what the future looks like for our family will have to be an open conversation, not just one that we have one time, all agree to, sign on the dotted line, and never talk about again. Our relationship is as dynamic as any other, and the conversations that we have to look the same. There are other sibling organizations out there that we are huge proponents of. Siblings need support across the lifespan and in many different ways, and we are collaborators wherever we can be with organizations that are serving siblings in whatever way they have found works for them. The Sibling Support Project is the originator of Sib Shops, which I know Brianna mentioned in her presentation. And it is a great organization to be connected to find out if there's a Sib Shop near you for someone in your family or in your network that is ages 8 to 13. But also, as a Sib Shop facilitator myself, I can tell you there's nothing that revitalizes and brings me back to my community more than being a Sib Shop facilitator. And I certainly recommend it as an opportunity to learn from the young Sibs in your life more about what they're thinking about and experiencing. Siblings with a Mission is another national organization that is dedicated to supporting siblings who have brothers or sisters with complex health conditions. This is a fantastic organization full of young folks with a lot of passion and drive to changing systems, to bringing support and awareness to the complex health conditions their siblings are experiencing, and to offer support groups and resources to those SIBs. This is a sort of my tack board of what we have going on at the Sibling Leadership right now to open conversations and offer support to siblings who are thinking about all of those things I mentioned in the data. SIB Thrive is a program that focuses on resiliency and group support. Our virtual SIB empowerment meetups are open to SIBs. They happen every first Saturday of the month. Our SIB as a Human collaboration is about to launch for National Siblings Day this year. It's going to be a new podcast where siblings have conversations with experts and each other around the SIB experience. We have a sibling self-care toolkit that you can download. Those SIB shop facilitator opportunities are kind of always available. There's usually a facilitator training hub in your local area. And we have a partnership with an organization called Right to Be, where we work on issues surrounding harassment and hate speech and things like that. And we partner to do public free bystander interventions, trainings to support the disability community in public spaces. So when we see and experience disability or ableism in the harassment in the community, we have the tools in our back pocket to react and respond to that situation and make our communities more accessible for everyone. If you are or know of an organization that would like to be a sibling supporter and they are looking for ways to find and connect with sibling organizations, we have quarterly network meetings where partner organizations come together to talk through ways where they can collaborate to support siblings and offer more resources and support to the siblings in your network. You do not have to be a sibling organization to come to this network meeting. The idea is that if you're doing something in your own organization and you want to find ways to include or support SIBs, we want to be a resource for you there. What's still missing? The Sibling Leadership Network does not have all of the answers or even most of the answers, but we do know that we need structured transition planning that includes siblings, that we need clear entry points for adult siblings to feel connected to one another, that they need mental health support specific to their identity as a sibling or sibling caregiver, that we know those end-of-life transitions need additional levels of support, and that there needs to be more culturally responsive sibling supports as well. So here's just a couple of key takeaways. Adult siblings are planning earlier than you may expect. They're feeling pressure sooner, and truly they're feeling the pressure from themselves. They do not blame their families or their family members for the pressure they experience. They're juggling multiple roles throughout their lives, and they're asking for some clearer pathways to get support and resources and be part of their family system. If we support siblings earlier on, we're strengthening their long-term stability and the long-term stability of our families as a whole. We're reducing crisis transitions and making transitions more manageable, and we're building sustainable family systems. My final thoughts here is that supporting siblings is just not optional. It's creating preventative policy, it's building family stability, it's ensuring long-term systems are sustainable, and including SIBs at the table prepares individuals and systems for the future. This long relationship that we have with one another is so important. And if we have conversations now, we're more ready for those bigger questions and conversations later. So find a way to have a conversation with the siblings that you know. You will be so surprised at what they bring up and share with you, how many ideas they have about the future and how to be involved, and what it is that they are asking for so that they can build strength and stability for their own family, for themselves, and for their community. And if you want to stay connected to me, here are some ways that you can, and the Sibling Leadership Network, to find out what we have going on. Here is some of that information. If you scan this kind of small, I didn't realize how small it was, QR code, you can sign up for our newsletter. It comes out almost every month with our new opportunities, the new research that we're learning about, our policy and advocacy opportunities, and what's happening from our chapters all over the country where siblings have an opportunity to connect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sarah, please drop Kaitlin's resources in the chat. Rhonda, do we have a couple of questions for Kaitlin?
Yes, we have a few questions. First of all, I apologize to Sean and Kaitlin for disrupting her introduction. That was a great presentation. We have two very dynamic speakers today, and I'm really, really proud and excited. So Kaitlin, two questions. How do you start to have the conversation to begin planning for a role with your sib in their life? When is it too soon and when is it too late?
What a great question. I steal this bit of advice from a really great parent creator on TikTok, to be quite frank with you. I heard it, and it is something that has always resonated so strongly with me. It's a dad, and he goes to his kids every night, and he says, "What do you want to talk to me about?" They are probably 4, 5, 6, 7. And the conversations that they have are so dynamic and interesting. But what it creates is a space for them to bring up vulnerable things, funny things, concerning things, anxiety things. And I don't think that there is an age that's too soon to ask your kids, what are you thinking about? What do you want to share with me? Those conversations are going to change over time. They're going to be more grounded in experience as they get older. But what you're cultivating is a safe place for them to share those anxieties and those fears, and that opportunity to puzzle through this really dynamic situation together. So my suggestion and my like I said, stolen bit of advice is always ask your kids, what do you want to tell me? What do you want to think about with me? And see what they bring up. You'll be surprised what they're willing to share.
Question 2, just from your own experience and what you know, what do sibs talk about when they're together? Are they venting, or are they sharing their experiences? Is it any different than any other sibling relationship?
When sibs get together, it's kind of my favorite thing in the whole world. As I'm sure parents or other self-advocates or people know, when you have a shared experience of some kind, that shared language gives this freedom to a conversation that you just don't experience anywhere else. It's like you're starting from page 55 instead of page 1. And the conversations are so broad and so long-ranging, but I think the theme is always, I'm looking for support. I want to find ways to do better. I want to build more skills or capacity for myself. I'm struggling with my mental health and I want to get better. And I'm looking for people who get it. I will be frank and tell you that there is venting sometimes, and I think that's a really healthy and safe thing for people to do. The last thing we want is for them to bottle all those feelings up and not feel capable or burn out in the experiences that they want to have. So we encourage venting too, but on the other side of the venting is always this resiliency that says, I want to be part of a community. I want to be well enough or skilled enough to take on another job in my family. And I want the support from a community to do it.
Thank you, Kaitlin. Please stay with us for a later part of the session where we'll go through some more questions and answers. All right, Sean Kirk.
Now, I will now turn the meeting over to the moderator, Keisha Dorsch.
Thank you, Sean. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Keisha Dorsch, and I'm a member of the IFSP State Council, and I previously served as a regional council member for 3 years for the Central Region. In my daily life, I work with long-term care programs. I enjoy music, shopping, and volunteering. I'm a dedicated wife and mother to kids with exceptional special needs and abilities. I'm also a family navigator for the Center for Family Involvement, a support group facilitator through NAMI, and a parent educator for multiple organizations. I have a clear passion for helping families connect to available community resources. So today I will serve as a moderator for our panel of families who support their siblings. They have a lot of information to share with us, and we want to allow our panel members the opportunity to share their own thoughtful and concise experiences with us. To our audience members, please put your questions in the chat and we will gather them to be addressed later on during the meeting. So at this time, I want to introduce you to our panelists. Emil Croyle-Sheire is a 13-year-old aspiring filmmaker in the 7th grade. He plays the baritone sax and guitar. Emil enjoys skiing, baseball, and cross country. Emil is the middle sibling to his older brother, Arlo, and their younger sister, Maya. Arlo lovingly refers to Emil as his big brother. Emil is a little taller than his 15-year-old sibling who has Down syndrome, ADHD, hearing loss, and complex medical needs. Emil and Arlo's mom, Erin, was working as a journalist in Malaysia when Arlo was born. Emil and Arlo have always looked out for each other. When they were growing up, people often mistook them for twins. While Emil considers himself an average teenager, he cares and looks out for both of his siblings. So, Emil, we have a couple of questions for you. Question number 1. What are some of the toughest things and the best things about having a brother with a disability?
I don't know. Probably he's easier to talk to, I feel like, than most of the kids at my school. But you can also just like you can also be more solitary. But it's nice.
That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that. What is it like for you to have a brother who needs a lot of medical care and extra support?
Hard. Sometimes, I mean, we travel, we travel to Rochester, Boston, and it isn't, most of the time it isn't a lot of fun stuff. A lot of waiting and just sitting around, really.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing. We have some other questions that will probably come in from our audience members, so we will circle back to you, okay?
Okay.
All right, so next panelist member is Monica Mann, and she's a lifelong disability advocate shaped by both personal and professional experience, and she currently serves on the Central IFSP Council. As a middle sister to 2 brothers with Down syndrome, Monica has spent her entire adult career working in disability services. She is passionate about helping families navigate disability services and finding meaningful resources. So, Monica, a couple of questions for you. Do you think you have developed certain strengths or skills from your role as a sibling to brothers with disabilities?
I think kind of goes back to Brianna's comment earlier about like that super sibling, except for I've graduated into like super mom. People always compliment like, oh, you're like that mom, you're like that Pinterest mom. And I think that is one of my big strengths. I carry that, whether it's with my kids or volunteering in different roles or at work with like things going on. But it's more, I think in our head, when you hear that, you kind of think of that like caregiving and memorizing the medical lists and all of that and keeping everything organized. But I think my strength with that is both my brothers being so youthful. The magic never stopped at our house. There was always traditions and Easter egg hunts and baking, and like there were just always fun things happening. And so when I had my own kids, we just dove right into that. And so like if we're at work, I'm making sure everyone's birthday celebrated, and so it I think helped me make sure more people feel seen and loved on and appreciate it. So that's what I think I got from my boys.
Very cool. Sounds like you started your village early and just added to that.
Yeah, we just kept on going.
Yeah. So, question number 2 for you. Are there any memories from growing up with your siblings that really stand out and taught you lessons that you still carry today?
I think I have two, and they kind of blend together as like one long story. Well, not long. I'll keep it brief. So Jason on the left in this picture is my oldest brother. And when I was about 5, there's some skateboarding movie where you could like do all these tricks came out, and like the boy down the street was like, if your brother lays down, I can jump over him. Like, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this is gonna be the coolest thing. And my mom comes running out of the house. And I don't think at that point I really understood my role. And she's like, Monica, like I got in trouble, and she's like, Monica, you have to like take care of your brother. He doesn't understand. Like you can't, like you have to like be his voice for him and make sure he's protected. And so I think I went into that role, right? On the playground, no matter where we went, I was now the big sister, even though he was older than me. And then flash forward, so we were in high school, and it was one of the first times mom left us alone for more than like an hour or so. And he was outside, and I told him he had to come in, and he yelled at me that he was the big brother and that I shouldn't be telling him what to do. And it got heated, and he like pushed me, and my grandma was next door, and let's be real, neither one of us were in charge. She was really watching us. Yeah. But that moment stuck with me of, even though I was in charge, his voice still mattered. He still like, and I think that more than any person-centered thinking training I've ever gone through was the moment that I remember really stuck, and like everyone has their voice, everyone needs to feel heard, and the approach that you take is really meaningful and impactful.
Right.
So,
I love how he advocated for himself.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, like Emil, I'm going to ask that you hang around because we may have some more questions that come in for you. That's okay. So the third panelist member is Pete Olson, and he's an enterprise sales manager at Comcast Business in Richmond, Virginia here. Pete is the brother of Kate Olson, her second but most favoritist brother of 3. Pete falls third in birth order of 8 siblings, and Kate is the 4th in the pecking order. Peter currently lives in Chesterfield and has 2 sons, Zach and Luke, along with his wife, Laura, and dog, Charlotte. Pete and the family live close to Kate, and they're able to get to her easily for fun family time and, if needed, an emergency. This is a relationship of love, support, and respect. So welcome, Pete. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions for you. So from your point of view, what was high school like for Kate, academically, socially, and just in general, as she started becoming her own person? And how did that time and all the changes she went through affect you and the rest of the family?
That's a big question. Well,
we can break it up.
It's a lot of questions in one there. I think high school was hard for Kate. Obviously, she, was kind of mainstream through high school. And so, she wasn't picking it up as quick as everybody else. And there was a reason for that. But, she never gave up, and she finished the work and put in the hours and had the dedication to actually finish. And that was probably one of the biggest moments when she graduated from high school of our family's current status at that point. People get married, children are born, but Kate graduating from high school was pretty, that was number one at that point. So, academically it was hard because, she was mainstream, but, I think socially too, it was difficult, obviously, because she was different, but none of her brothers and sisters went to the same school. So I heard a lot of folks where they went to the same school, and you could kind of protect and keep an eye out. Brianna is the sister bear over there, and really keeping a sharp eye, which I think would have loved to have done, but that's not how it was back then. And Kate always had to go to a different school, and just to help her with the things she needed, and we weren't able to be there. So that you don't really know it's a challenge, but it really was. And but she persevered. through it and, did what had to be done. So we were awfully, awfully proud.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And our next question is, when do you think is the right time for a person with special needs to start living on their own? And what can families do to help them get ready for the journey?
I think as siblings, you don't think there really is a time. It's like, well, there's no time for her. But as you watch it happen, especially in a family of ours, where the wheels are in motion, whether you're the firstborn or the eighth. I mean, it's constant movement, and I guess as I've gotten older, I feel like it's between 18 and 21, or maybe a few years more, because every family's a little bit different. But I think in order to get them ready, I think I think everybody who's close by should help them move, and be very positive about the level of independence, because that is incredible, that level or that confidence of independence. And the other young lady, I'm sorry, her name is escaping me right now. She just spoke, but she talked about some of the pressures of those folks and the anxieties. And I don't think we ever really thought about that for Kate, that there were those anxieties to be as normal as her brothers and sisters as she became independent. So, I think we didn't think that was a good move, but when she especially went into a home with some other young ladies, but she did fantastic. I mean, it was fantastic. And I think it's important to visit, their home as well. I think it's important to have family pictures, the things that they like there, and to be close by too, where they have that level of comfort that if I had to make a call, how quickly could you be there? Because to them, 5 minutes, an hour is 5 minutes. So I think being close by is really, really important. And, just being their home is your home, just like at home, that kind of thing. So I think that's really important to do a couple of those things and make them feel comfortable.
Thanks, Pete. And I have been in many rooms with Kate, and she is a dynamo. So you guys are really a great support for her. Okay, so Rhonda, this time, I just want to make sure that we are still on target for the time. I like to talk as all the other panels do as well. So keep me honest, let me know when we have a 10 or 5 minute warning when we have to move forward. But at this time,
we're doing well.
Okay.
You can move on. Yeah, you can keep going.
Do we have any questions in the chat?
The questions that we have provided so far, you can start responding to those.
So this time we would like to bring the speakers and the panelists together. We do have some questions for everyone. So Brianna, or Bree, if you like to be called Bree, where did your sibling relationship overlap with everyday sibling experiences, and where did it diverge?
That's a really great question. And I think kind of like what Monica shared, I had a very similar upbringing where we were existing all as siblings, regardless of disability. We were a unit. And so I feel like, and this presentation gave me a reason to reflect on, what that dynamic was really like. And, I think that we are like every other group of sibling. But I think what made it a little bit different is especially in the birth order, I'm big sister and I have two siblings with a disability. It's the three of us, where it started to diverge is, and I didn't really realize it until I was sitting down talking with my mom, but I had to take on a lot of responsibility very early, and that impacted me as a person. And so my relationship kind of diverged because I naturally had to carry this level of responsibility, duty, forward thought to think about, okay, we're going to the grocery store. All right, does Leah have her headphones? Does she have her iPad? Okay, I'll go down the juice aisle to get that for my mom because Maya gags at the smell of gummy candy. Okay, let's do that. And so, there was just a layer of protection and responsibility that came with it that I think a lot of other siblings, when they kind of hear my banter or the way that I go about life and kind of this like protective mode of everybody that's around me, they're like, oh, that's a little different. I don't think like that. But I think all in all, we're very similar. Like Maya and Leah have both taken my clothes. They've ripped my music tastes, my favorite colors, all the things. We've really taken a little bit from each other and built up our own personalities. And so, yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. And your overprotectiveness is thoughtfulness as well. So
Yes.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Yes, thank you.
Kaitlin, what is the most important lesson you've learned from your sibling?
I think from my sister Kelsey, I'll go through all three of them. My sister Kelsey has taught me a level of patience and I think patience is the best way to describe it. We have our own communication style now, but that is something that we've developed over many, many years together. And that is one that we continue to use. My favorite thing that she does now is that I think I also probably teach her some patience too, because she will say, stop using your lawyer voice on me. And it's an indication that I've got to go back to sibling mode and stop being bossy. Anne Marie is my middle sister, my sister who suffered a traumatic brain injury, and I've learned perseverance from her. I think she has a spirit that will not be dulled, and she is going to find a path forward, and she's not afraid to ask for the support that's necessary to get to where she wants to go. And that is a perseverance that I have also tried to adopt in my own life. And my baby sister, Audrey, has been the person who has taught me how to have joy. I think not unlike Brianna, I took on a lot of responsibility as the oldest sister. I have a tendency to be the severe one, the serious one, the one who's always thinking about what comes next or what the problems might be that lay in front of us. And Audrey is the one who reminds me that life is for living and that we had better enjoy our time together while we've got it. And she carries that into her relationships with Anne Marie and with Kelsey so beautifully and reminds me to do the same.
I love that. Thank you. I'm going to take that for myself as well. Emil, what's your favorite thing to do with your brother Arlo?
Nice.
Is Emil able to be on camera? We would love to see him if he's comfortable.
I'm here.
Okay.
Is it on?
We can't see him.
Is that better?
No, we still don't see you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay.
That is so weird.
It's on.
Can you hear him?
We can hear him fine. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear him. Mm-hmm. Well, some people said they can see.
Yeah. I'm not sure what's
Okay.
going on.
All right.
I wonder, is he
Go ahead.
spotlighted? But anyway.
Yes, continue. Sorry.
Okay. Dance.
Dance. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He loves to dance.
Yeah, he likes dancing a lot. He listens to techno stuff.
Oh, I love that. Is that your favorite music or is it only his?
No, it's his.
Okay.
But I can tolerate it.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. Monica, what's your primary support system when you feel overwhelmed by family dynamics?
I guess I would say my husband. He's like my best friend. So it's like my sounding board. And I think he's now walked the journey with me long enough to kind of understand what I'm going through. And so he's just kind of always there for when I have something going on.
Yeah. I love how they can pick up on nonverbal communication as well, right?
Yes, they know what's happening.
They do. Pete, over the years, have your expectations about people with disabilities changed? And what feels different for you now as it compares to when you were a kid?
That's a good question. I guess I always thought, Kate may not participate like others do as she gets older. She's got this maybe stigma or something that's just kind of holding her back a little bit. She won't have the advancements of others, and how will that be? But I was, I could have been more wrong. I mean, and now just kind of watching her progression as she began working, and the level of independence that created, and the level of confidence, and the social interaction of having a job, and just that whole world for her. All of a sudden, she wasn't like, hey, where's Kate? Why isn't she at home? She's at work. She's at work. Oh, she's at work. Well, guess what? She's at work every day, Monday through Friday, from a certain time. And if she's not, guess what? She's not feeling independent. She's not confident, and she's not getting the social interaction that she needs so much. Just to be her own person. And that was really kind of the greatest thing to watch. As she became independent, is how work was so important to her, to branch away on her own. I mean, how do you branch away from 7 brothers and sisters, but yet they have their own lives too? And if they don't have time for you, how do you create your own? And that's what she did. She created her own world and her own independence, and we're trying to be in her world. You know what I mean?
Right.
More often, and there's not much room for us anymore, because that room is full. It's full with social and work stuff, and she's got a little time for family and this, that, and the other, but it's can you get on Kate's schedule? I don't know.
Make an appointment.
Good luck to you, even if you're in the family, and make sure she knows about an event well in advance, because she might have something else going on. And I think that's what's the most incredible thing is you got to get on her schedule now, and get into her life, because it's already going on. And if you miss a minute, or you miss a week, or you didn't connect that month, you really got to be like, hey, Kate, what's going on right now? Well, I flew here, and I was at this convention, and I just spoke at this, and oh, by the way, there's a panel thing coming up. Can you do that? And I'm getting some award at something. I don't know what it is, but you think you're open on this day? And you're like, so that's kind of what's really, really neat, is just the level that she's created for herself of her own world.
I love that. I love it. Very empowering. Rhonda, do we have any questions that came into the chat? Should we just continue?
Yes, we have a few that we can address before we move forward. One for Brianna. Please discuss your family's experience locating resources and supports that were respectful of your culture, your preferences, and that worked well for your sisters.
Ooh,
I know it's a lot. It's loaded.
That's a lengthy one. I think I'll start from the end and progress it forward. Kind of circling back to a point that I mentioned in my presentation, we are still struggling to find resources and supports that, do fit my siblings' needs. And, my mother that I mentioned, she's a special education advocate. And, she taught me this philosophy that, individualized and personalized plans are what everybody deserves. And so it can be really hard, especially when we're talking about autism as a spectrum, to be able to find a resource or support that's, a perfect fit for the person in your life. And so it's still a challenge. I can share that we are a multiracial family. So we are Black, white, and Filipino. And so that has, been interesting just within our own experience with our external family networks, explaining what autism is, when we show up to the family gathering, what's to be expected. And, it's been hard, even navigating who's going to host Thanksgiving, because Leah might be most comfortable in her own home, and transitioning to grandma's house is a bit overstimulating, especially when we start inviting all those extra family members. And so it's been difficult. And so finding things that meet our preferences, our cultural needs, our perspectives, continues to be a challenge, and it's something that has influenced, inspired, and encouraged my work in disability. I'm the leadership and advocacy program manager at Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities. So I spend my days building programs like the Texas Partners in Policymaking program. I'm facilitating our Youth Leadership Forum program and multiple other grants throughout the state that are trying to find ways to meet families where they are. And so, that's why I'll keep saying to the siblings out there, to the parents that are listening, take action, get out there, make those resources, make those pathways. There's another sibling that's looking for it. There's another family that's looking for it. And so hopefully that answers in response to that question in a way that's helpful for the audience.
Yes, thank you. We have a question from RNA. That is the title on their entry point, and I would like for them to, Rachel will unmic you, and you can ask your question related to, and anyone who's comfortable, finding a spouse that will be supportive of your role as a sibling or caregiver. Is that what your question is related to? Having the supports from your spouse?
Yes, just if there's just any advice on how they were able to find a spouse that would support them through this journey, since it is a team effort and a village that has to come around them, especially when the parents are gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, who would like to take that question?
I can comment on it. I don't know if I have the necessarily the best answer, but I will say one of my first dates with my husband, I had it include my brothers. So we all went like to laser tag together. And so there was like intentional moments where it was all of us to make sure that we could be a team unit. Because we're a package deal. If you don't like the boys, you're kind of stuck with them. So I think that's it. It's like kind of being proactive and upfront and like finding the support system together would be my feedback on that.
Thank you, Monica. We have a question for Pete.
Oh, it looks like Pete also was raising his hand.
Comment on that. Huh?
I was just going to comment on the spouse, thing. My wife Laura, knew of my other sisters that went to the same school that she went to. She didn't know me at that point, and she certainly didn't know Kate because, as I mentioned, Kate always went to a different school. And as we dated or as we got married, it really wasn't difficult for her to adjust to knowing Kate. And quite frankly, over the years, Laura's become a little bit more of a confidant with Kate than sometimes myself. Sometimes we're a little, it doesn't always jive, right? I mean, sometimes she and I are at, opposite ends of opinions, Kate and I. And, and my wife, Laura, is kind of I don't want to say mediator, but is also kind of a helper too with different things in Kate's life. So because we're close by and, and she knows sometimes I'll be like, Kate's driving me crazy. And she'll be like, relax. And, I'm going to talk with her or I'm going to be with her or I'm going to help her because sometimes I can't help. And sometimes that's frustrating, or I don't have the time and I'm trying to squeeze it in. And I can't, but my wife will pick it up. And that's really, she's going to pop over there tomorrow for something to bring some dresses over because Kate's going to be out of the country for a wedding for her niece. And, my wife's going to bring those dresses over to have her try those on. And she kind of runs the when Kate has a cleaning lady come to her house and stuff like that, or TV or phone or something's not going Kate's way. She literally calls Laura. She may not even call me or other siblings. She calls my wife, and I know she's listening, and I know it's very comforting for her, and quite frankly, it's comforting for me too that my wife doesn't give me any static, or whatever, or negativity over attention or things that you got to do that might not be scheduled to help or assist. And I have full support, and that's what I think makes it even better, is having your spouse give you the full support that you need to support your family member as an independent equal, because they're the same age. My wife and Kate are the exact same age. So every once in a while, I just roll that. Aren't you two the same age? So it should be the same. You know what I mean? And so we don't take any slack there. You know what I mean? So just keeping her straight. So anyway, that's my thought on that.
Thank you, Pete. Well, Pete, you're a little hot tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and go into the question that's designated for you. As you grow older, what are your support needs at this time as a sibling?
I'm lucky because I have other family members, and several that are here in Richmond, that pick up that slack. Kate's two younger sisters live nearby. Only across the river here in Richmond. So that's what I say. Sometimes you might miss Kate for a month because another sibling helped out or was engaged or something else was going on, and then when you connect with her, you're like, oh, what's been going on? And I just flew into town and I just got home, and all this, that, and the other stuff with her. So I guess as an older sibling now, I just need the help of other siblings, and I know like Monica might not have that, and Brianna doesn't have that, the older siblings to help out. So there's so many ways where we're a little luckier, I don't know, to have multiple people that can help, and a parent. I really love the way that she was speaking about her mom and the family, but our mom who really did this early. A lot of this stuff didn't exist back in let's say the mid 70s, late 70s. And my mom really made sure that Kate was being recognized and treated equal, just like everybody else, making sure that the educational and the transportation systems were there, and when it wasn't a popular subject back then, and it wasn't a common subject back then. So this event for me has been really nice, just to see just tremendous exponential advancements to their rights and what should be happening for them, and the equalization of all of them, brothers and sisters, and them being independent. So that's what I really enjoyed about this whole conversation today.
Thank you, Pete. We have a question in chat, then I'm gonna shoot it back over to Keisha to ask a question of Emil. But for Kaitlin, I think this would be a good question. What is the one thing you wish professionals or providers better understood about the role of a sibling or family member?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think professionals play such an important role in some of this as well. I think that what siblings really want folks to understand is that they're not just in the waiting room thinking about their own lives, they're in the waiting room thinking about their family. And, they play a role in that family, their own wants and needs come into it, but they are always thinking about this and looking for opportunities to have the chance to communicate their feelings, have the chance to communicate their perception. I think there's always an opportunity to learn from siblings because they are peers. And because they are seeing things from a peer level that parents or other professionals are not seeing. And so getting the opportunity, I remember being young and getting the opportunity to go to an IEP meeting or go, be at an occupational therapy session and say, I've been noticing this. And that's because we're playing Barbies together in the basement, or that's because I was on the school playground while this was going on. That's so different than what our parents may be seeing. And there's so much untapped expertise from those peers that can be used, and they are looking for an opportunity, I think, to share that. And when they're given that opportunity, they feel empowered. They feel like they're learning skills of advocacy that they will take forward in their life. And they feel like they're more capable of playing that role later on because they got to practice as they were younger. Like any other skill, it's one that you feel becomes more second nature the more opportunities you get to practice it. And professionals play a really important role in providing space for that.
Thank you, Kaitlin. So Keisha, do you have a question for Emil?
I do. Well, a great one came in to the chat I saw. Emil, when your friends ask about your brother Arlo, what do you tell them?
Most of the time, I just tell him he's doing okay, and sometimes about what sports he's doing, just basic stuff like that. Because most of my friends now, they already know him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've known like my friends for 4 years now, so they've met him before several times, birthday parties, stuff like that. So when they talk about Arlo, it's like usually for small talk now. It isn't really like for anything big.
I understand. So did you ever feel like you needed to take on more responsibility because Arlo needed a little extra help?
Yeah, I guess. We share a room, so I have to help him up with cleaning his messes and help him out with his chores. Whenever he wants to play outside, he never wants to do it by himself, so I usually come out there with him, and we play wiffle ball or on our trampoline.
You're his best friend.
What?
You're his best friend.
Oh, I'm his best friend, I guess.
That's very cool. Thanks for your support, Mom. Thank you so much.
Keisha, we have a question in chat, and I'm going to ask Rachel to unmute Allison Hart so that she can ask her question to someone in the panel.
Okay, go, Allison.
I gotta find what the question was.
Allison, what it said was something about how do you advocate more with your own advocacy? And so we wanted to just see, kind of expand on what you were asking and maybe who you were asking that to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like I'm trying to do more advocacy, but also when my sister started being my POA, because my mom and dad were my POA, because my sister had like more knowledge about medical stuff. If I have questions, I usually go to her if my mom and dad don't know what to do, because she started the medical field with like insurance and stuff and like research on diagnosis when I was when I was still in high school. But she did research on vacuum pumps and my physical needs, and then now she's helping me through more of my medical and my my advocacy, because I told her what I wanted to do. So we're planning on going to Boston to do more research on my diagnosis. And also, I grew up with my brother being ADHD, my dad being ADHD, and I recently got ADHD. So, trying to learn everything physical and mentally is it's taking me a while. But I started advocating before I even knew what my diagnosis was. So.
Thank you, Allison. Brianna or Kaitlin, one of you want to tackle this?
I will just quickly say, when it comes to what I call big A advocacy, which is like going and talking to policymakers or decision makers about advocacy, I'm a huge supporter of partners and policymaking programs. I'm a partners grad from Wisconsin, and I think that it's just a stellar program that helps you learn how to tackle big A advocacy. And when it comes to little A advocacy, which is those moments of advocacy in your own life, not necessarily for systems change, but for what you need. I think having a community behind you is always an important part of that. Just knowing who to bring with you as you make those decisions and you advocate for yourself makes it feel a lot less scary. But I wanted to just mention that I also am such a huge fan of partners and policymaking programs, and I know Brianna does that in Texas too. So I bet you she has some ideas as well.
Yes, Kaitlin. Yes, so we're on the same wavelength. I was about to shout out the Partners in Policymaking program as well, not just because I lead the program in Texas, but because I'm also a graduated in 2022. As I mentioned in my presentation, what drove me there was, a crisis moment in my siblings' life and needing to figure out how to create change. But what I really like about the partners curriculum is they take you through the system. So you're building knowledge, you're building connections, you're talking with the people who are making the decisions, you're talking to those policymakers that are passing those pieces of legislation. And so I would really encourage you to seek out those advanced advocacy training models, either within your state or on a national level. And I heard you, Allison, mention, especially about like healthcare navigation. I am very pleased that along with, the sibling conversation kind of bubbling up to the top, I'm also seeing this surge in projects and initiatives that are surrounding healthcare navigation, especially for those with disabilities, navigating adulthood medicine, because there's just so many gaps and so many lacks of access. And so I would just encourage you to find those kind of role model agencies, see if they're offering any type of education or programming. But let me tell you, as a professional in this space as well, I love to get emails from advocates like, hey, help me, I'm looking for this, or hey, do you know somebody that could help me learn more about this? And I guarantee you, we do get backed up a little bit, but I know that we all try our best to get back to everybody in a reasonable time and try to connect you with that next resource. And so don't feel like you have to go at it alone, Allison. I'm really happy that your sibling was there to help you with a lot, but I love how you're trying to take that agency over your life as well. And so I hope that you can find those programs that fit your needs. And if you can't, I included my email on my presentation and in my materials. Please reach out to me. I have some friends out in Virginia that I'd be happy to connect you with and help you find what you're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all so much. That is our time for Q&A, and I will turn it over to Keisha.
So attendees, thank you for your attention and interest on this educational topic, and special thanks to Sarah Horn-Bunger. I'm sorry if I messed up your last name, Sarah. She's new. The Regional Network Coordinator for the Central Virginia Council in partnership with the Center for Family Involvement at VCU. Acknowledgement to the remaining Central Regional Council members who participated in organizing this regional meeting, Dawn Junius, and Michelle Bellinger. Please complete the post-meeting survey. Rhonda, please share that link in the chat. And now I will turn the meeting over to Jonathan Wallace for final announcements and the closeout.
Good evening, everybody. I don't think my camera's working. I'm getting an error message. It's saying the camera's not available. So I'll just do this quick wrap up and for the end of the meeting. IFSP Council recruitment for people with developmental disabilities with lived experience who are interested in advocating and making a difference in Virginia. You can still apply through March 23rd, 2026. Central Virginia is Region 4, Western Virginia Region 1, and Northern Virginia Region 2. Heather, if you could please drop in the chat the link for the IFSP self-nominee application. The IFSP State Council meeting will be held Friday, April 24th, 2026 from noon until 2:15. There's an administrative meeting for State Council members only. The next IFSP Coordinated Regional Council meeting will be held Thursday, May 21st, 2026 from 6 p.m. until 8:15 p.m. Navigating the educational options in Virginia. This will be a virtual educational session and open to the public to attend. Heather, please drop in the chat where the recording and PowerPoint slides will be shared on the My Life and My Community website. Heather, do you also mind sharing the link in chat for the IFSP community Facebook page? And to receive the latest updates from IFSP, please make sure you subscribe to the mail list at I guess Heather's also going to share that link too. Thank you to our main presenters, our expert panelists, the IFSP Central Council, and the IFSP staff. To all attendees, your participation is appreciated. Please stay in touch with the IFSP program for important updates in 2026. We hope you have gained some useful information, and everyone have a great night.